So we know Warzone Mobile is shutting down, and I think one thing that we're gonna end up seeing happen with Call of Duty Mobile is Warzone Mobile features that were kind of exclusive to that game, basically coming over to Call of Duty Mobile now that we know that CODM is going to basically be the only Call of Duty title on Android and iOS. I think the real question though is this a good thing though? Like, is Warzone Mobile features coming to Call of Duty Mobile a good thing? Because obviously CODM and Warzone Mobile had some pretty significant differences in terms of pretty much everything, the gunplay, the movement, especially things like mantling and stuff like that. Even when it came to like what maps were available, obviously Warzone Mobile was based off of Warzone on PC and console, and therefore it was a lot more like Call of Duty on PC and console. Whereas CODM is really its own thing. It has its own unique sense of graphics, movement, gunplay, all of that stuff, and if Warzone Mobile features come over to CODM, it kind of feels like maybe CODM kind of loses its unique identity a little bit. But at the same time, CODM is 6 years old now, well, basically 5.5 years old, going on 6 years old now. And maybe there is some upgrading and some updating that is, kind of needed. Because as we all know now that Warzone Mobile's gone, and now that this whole Warzone Mobile situation probably has Activision rethinking any future Call of Duty mobile titles, CODM is pretty much the what we have now, and probably what we will have for the next few years at least. And so it does kind of bring up the question of like, well, then should we make this a little bit more modern? Because at the end of the day, CODM obviously it has gotten a ton of new content, ton of new guns, maps, characters, all that good stuff. But for the most part, fundamentally, CODM does feel kind of the same as it's always been, and it's now going on 6 years old now. And if we're going to be using this game as the premier Call of Duty game on Android and iOS, then I can see how some people would argue like it kind of needs a little bit of an overhaul, essentially a little bit of a facelift. We already know that this is happening. Like it's not even like speculation as to whether or not stuff from Call of Duty on PC and consoles coming to COD Mobile. Like it's not speculation. Here, this video, we can see this is from, I believe, Dark Viper X. They basically posted some of the movement changes that are coming to Call of Duty Mobile in the future, and kind of comparing it to Black Ops Cold War. And as you guys can see, it kind of looks like that's what we're going to be getting. It doesn't seem like we're going to be getting Omni movement from Black Ops 6, but they still chose Cold War from PC and consoles as kind of like what they wanted to do in terms of bringing over new movement and just new mechanics over from that game to COD M. I've seen some pretty mixed reactions to this potential change, because I think this was supposed to come relatively soon, and then I think they delayed it or something like that. And so who knows if they will implement it or not. But for the most part, I've seen some pretty mixed reactions to it. At first, I saw it and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take it." Like Cold War was a cool game, and I feel like it's gonna make CODM feel just a little bit more modernized and stuff like that. But then again, I started thinking about it a little bit more, and then again, kind of made me realize like, yeah, you know what? CODM does kind of stand out when it comes to Call of Duty titles, with its movement, with its gunplay and stuff like that. It still feels like Call of Duty, but it just feels like its own unique Call of Duty. And now we're basically just gonna have the feeling, movement and stuff like that in CODM from a Call of Duty from like 3 years ago or something. And it kind of does open up the possibility of more stuff coming over from these Call of Duty titles, because I think one thing that I've seen the community mention a lot of is that it feels like a lot of things were kind of kept for Warzone Mobile so that Warzone Mobile could have things over Call of Duty Mobile. But now that that game has failed and is basically shut down, those things could potentially be coming over to CODM instead now. Things like Verdansk, things like Rebirth Island, things like, for example, movement changes and stuff, guns, potential multiplayer maps, stuff that they wanted to keep specifically for Warzone Mobile to kind of sell that game. All of that is kind of now on the table to potentially come to COD M. I don't know. Me personally, I do think that overall it would be like a net positive. I think that, COD M feels great to me. I know a lot of people are kind of bored with the game and stuff, and that's going to kind of be something that I touch on right now. But I know a lot of people are kind of bored of this game. But for me personally, I like COD M the way it is. But at the same time, too, when I kind of think about the future of it, when I think of, okay, well, what does year 7 of COD M look like? What does year 8, year 9, year 10 even? That's when I kind of do think like, you know what? Yeah, Even though I do personally like the game the way it is right now, I do think that it may end up needing some updating and upgrading going into the future. Because again, we're probably not going to get another Call of Duty title on mobile, at least for the next few years, because of the disaster that was Warzone Mobile. I know me personally, in my like circle of people that I know that play mobile games and stuff like that, a lot of them have kind of gotten bored with Call of Duty Mobile because they've been playing pretty much every day for the last 5 to 6 years. And so things like this, changes like the movement from Cold War and stuff, things like that do excite them and do get them wanting to play this game again. Again, I also have people that are like, nah, leave COD Mobile the way it is. Like, it's perfect the way it is, and all these, dumb changes couldn't save Warzone Mobile, so they're not going to do anything to CODM and stuff. I can kind of see both sides of it, but I think overall, these changes will probably be a good thing. I think it's going to reignite that feeling of wanting to play the game for people that are kind of bored of it already, and it just gives the game longevity. Because if a game stays the same for too long, eventually it gets boring and eventually people move on, especially if competing games end up coming out. But if CODM is always innovating and always upgrading and updating to basically, keep up with the times, then that's good for the game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you think these Cold War movement changes coming to CODM is a good thing, and do you want to see them go even further than that? Do you want them to bring stuff that was exclusive to Warzone Mobile, for example, that Verdansk BR map, or even the Rebirth Island map, things like, the loadout, calling in loadouts and respawns, all that stuff? Do you want to see Warzone Mobile stuff come to Call of Duty Mobile? Would that bring you back to Call of Duty Mobile if you've stopped playing this game? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting so close to 25,000 subs. And yeah, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Subscribe, motherfucker.